Tonight, York police announce a major human trafficking bust, an operation based in Ontario, but spanning several provinces.
We're seeing a lot of girls that will try and leave their pimp on their own. They get found, they get beaten.
Project Convalesce leads to 300 charges and 31 arrests. A Markham man said to be the kingpin. Plus,
they're going to pay for all of the Ontario line. They're going to pay for all of the Scarborough subway.
the province and the city broker a big deal that has the potential to dramatically change transit in Toronto. And an 87-year-old woman speaks out and has a message for her attacker after she was tackled and robbed over Thanksgiving. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. 31 people are under arrest tonight, facing more than 300 charges as part of a large-scale investigation into human trafficking and organized crime that spans several provinces. And York police believe a man in Markham is the main boss behind it all. Lorenda Redekop has the details.
This is one of the 31 people arrested. Police say another man, Jonathan Nyangwila, is the kingpin of the operation, facing more than 30 charges related to human trafficking, firearms possession, and fraud. This all started a year ago. Two women from Quebec called police from a Vaughan hotel room.
They were working for him. They tried to leave and tried to make their own money, and at which point he tracked them down.
Multiple police forces from Ontario and Quebec got involved. Police say Nyangwila even controlled the organization from jail at one point. They say they've confirmed 12 victims.
They are controlled emotionally. They're controlled through violence, through threats of violence. They're controlled, some with drugs and alcohol.
People familiar with trafficking cases say it's common to take victims to another city or province. It separates them from people they know and anyone who could help.
The purpose is to create confusion. So you don't know where you are, you're disoriented, and you're less likely to reach out and ask for help. So for me, I was working at various different strip clubs across Ontario.
That was almost 20 years ago. Renelle Bruder was a teenager, homeless at the time and desperate.
It was presented to me as this is a great opportunity. Great opportunity to help you, better your life. We're going to help you do this. But then I witnessed my trafficker assault another woman, and that was really, for me, the trigger to leave.
Barbara Goss started a human trafficking hotline in May and says they've received more calls than expected. She says here in Ontario, the corridor along Highway 401 is big business for traffickers.
Traffickers know the script. They know the right things to say to these individuals, to coerce them, lure them, groom them, and then utilize them for their own profits.
Police say their investigation in this case continues. They've laid more than 300 charges against people including Nyangwila and 3 of his brothers. Police say they'd like to speak with 33 other women who worked for the organization in the sex trade. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
The union representing public elementary teachers says its bargaining with the Ontario government is at a virtual standstill. The Elementary Teachers Federation is asking for a conciliation officer to step in to help resolve contract talks. The teacher's contract expired at the end of August, but discussions with the government and school boards have been ongoing since June. The ETFO has been holding strike vote meetings throughout the province since early September, and the union says the results of that will be announced next month. Earlier this week, the union representing public high school teachers said it would also be holding a strike vote. And operations are expected to resume at the General Motors plant in Oshawa on Friday, now that GM and the United Auto Workers Union have reached a tentative deal to end a month-long strike by nearly 50,000 workers in the U.S. Now, that strike halted work at more than 30 GM factories across 9 states and led to layoffs at plants in Canada and Mexico. Workers were demanding better pay, health care, and profit sharing, but picket lines will stay up until at least tomorrow. That's when union leaders will decide if rank-and-file members in the U.S. should vote on the deal before they return to work. And a big deal reached today over the future of transit in Toronto. The province agreeing to drop its plans to take over the TTC's existing subway lines, and the mayor is endorsing the government's Ontario line proposal. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has that story.
I am very pleased to be here this morning.
At both Queen's Park and City Hall, plenty of smiles over a transit agreement worth $29 billion.
We've got a deal that is going to be good overall and that is going to advance the goal that we have as a city. Get the transit built.
This is a big day. This is it's unusual to have the city and the province in agreement on something of this magnitude.
The deal commits to building the $11 billion Ontario line. That's the province's longer version of the downtown relief line to run between Ontario Place and the Science Centre. It also covers extending the Yonge subway line to Richmond Hill, building the long-delayed Scarborough subway, and extending the nearly completed Eglinton Crosstown to Pearson Airport. 3 projects forecast to cost a combined $16 billion.
On our end, there's a feeling of optimism and excitement about getting shovels in the ground.
Here's how the deal would work. The city won't have to pay its usual share of the costs for any of the new subway projects. Instead, the city must put those billions toward fixing up the TTC's existing lines or its own light rapid transit projects. Mayor John Tory likes the province's offer.
They're going to pay for all of the Ontario line. They're going to pay for all of the Scarborough subway. Just to pick those 2 examples, that will free up billions of dollars that we as a city will be able to put to state of good repair and or to things like the Scarborough East LRT.
The province also agrees to reimburse the city for what it's already spent on lines that won't be built as planned. The new lines would be owned by the province, but the Ford government is dropping its plan to take ownership of the TTC's existing subway network. Now, to actually build these subway lines, the city and the province need money from the federal government as well. The federal Conservative leader Andrew Scheer promised earlier this month that if his party forms government, they will provide the necessary funding. And today, the Liberals and Justin Trudeau made the same commitment. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
So a big political win for the PC government, but where was Premier Ford? Well, he was far from Toronto, another time zone away in Kenora, near the Manitoba border. He chose that location to speak with reporters for the first time in months. He's been keeping a relatively low profile during the federal election, but did weigh in tonight on that transit deal.
It's the crown jewel, this transit system of the GTA. It's actually the first time we're actually going to build a greater Toronto area transit system, get people moving once and for all. For years, for decades, there's been so much politics involved in building transit. We're finally getting the job done.
Paul Ford is calling the new line, the Ontario line, the crown jewel of the transit system. There are concerns for many riders tonight about the luster of another line. Today's agreement will see the province pay to replace Line 3, the Scarborough RT, with a 3-stop subway extension, but it's going to take even longer to build. And as Kelda Yun tells us, that has many wondering if Line 3 can physically last that long.
When it comes to Line 3, this commuter doesn't mince words.
Well, I kind of sort of call this the ghetto train, so it's about time that they did do something to it.
Not that there haven't been plans. A decade ago, a light rail line was proposed to replace the aging Scarborough RT, but was rejected by former Mayor Rob Ford. His council greenlit a 1-stop extension of Line 2 instead. When his brother Doug Ford became Premier, he pushed for a 3-stop extension. And this morning, the city endorsed it.
The Scarborough subway will happen later than otherwise might have been the case, but it will have more stops and go further.
But it will now take even longer to build, opening by 2029 at the earliest.
I don't think we can wait another 10 years.
Brenda Thompson is the chairperson of Scarborough Transit Action. As it is, the existing Line 3 trains need major repairs to last until 2026. She and a few others we spoke to aren't confident.
I think something's going to happen. It's going to break down.
It's like that old roller coaster ride at Canada's Wonderland, the one that, yeah, it's like that one.
Last winter, the line had to be shut down for 4 days due to snow and ice, forcing commuters to take shuttle buses.
I'm fed up with that. I think that I should move this area because of this service, it's terrible. Winter is worst.
Those shuttle buses may become a full-time option if the fleet can't be extended past 2026. The TTC says it's looking at options while the city and province discuss how to pay for it all.
We need to make sure that there's some kind of a bus rapid transit or something that people can use and it doesn't, take them hours.
The TTC says it will have a report in the spring laying out the options. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Colette Kennedy's here with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, so far this week we've talked about frost warnings and the rain today, and now it's all about the wind.
Yeah, we are looking at some really significant winds moving in for Thursday. I know it's been a little bit gusty earlier today with those southwesterly winds, and then they're kind of letting up a bit. But as they turn overnight to the northwest, they're going to be ramping up on us. So still going to be unsettled as well. So keeping the umbrella handy, not a bad idea. Some isolated showers again coming back at us with those windy conditions. But we will get into some improvements as we go into Friday with decreasing clouds. So that's a great to be seeing that as we're heading a little bit closer to the weekend. These are some of the daytime highs from today, and if you feel like it didn't seem like that into the afternoon hours, yeah, those were from earlier. Really, it was around 10, 11 degrees for much of the afternoon. A look at what's to come. You see some of those wraparound showers, that area of low pressure over towards the eastern seaboard, so the energy from this system transferring there and really ramping up. So it still gives us some of that instability for these isolated showers, which then should improve as we go into Friday and start to see the sun coming back. But it's also that system that's going to be winding up the atmosphere and giving us those significant winds. Overnight tonight, 7 degrees, 11 degrees for tomorrow. We'll take a closer look at that system, but also at the weekend coming up. Mike?
Okay, thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
It was a strange sight tonight outside George Brown College downtown. Student chefs in their full gear lining the streets after reports of a man with a gun on campus.
All of a sudden, police just came barging into our lab, into our classroom, and said, "Stop everything, drop everything out of the building. You've got to leave right now." And we even had our burners on, and we're like, "Oh my God, we gotta turn our burners off so we don't burn the school down."
Now officers searched the building. Fortunately, they didn't find anyone, and no one was injured. The 504 King streetcar, though, was diverted to Queen Street during that search. Well, we are hearing tonight from an 87-year-old woman who went through quite an ordeal earlier this week. On Thanksgiving Monday, while walking near her house, she was suddenly attacked, thrown to the ground, and then had her purse stolen. Talia Ricci spoke with her about it today.
I just started screaming at the top of my lungs. And I think that's what brought people out.
The streets were quiet on Thanksgiving Monday when 87-year-old Lily Gibson was assaulted and robbed just around the corner from the home she's lived in for 55 years.
He took the bag and pushed me down, and I've had 4 hip operations. So once I'm on the ground, I can't get up. And I have a skin on my knee, and my hip was a little sore.
The resilient senior is otherwise okay. It happened on Brunswick Avenue south of Bloor Street West. Police are searching for security footage in the area, and they also released these photos of the suspect.
We are definitely concerned, more so because of the victim's age and her well-being.
I'm going to be famous.
The active senior says she has no plans to put a stop to her evening strolls.
Bye.
She's a busy lady.
That's my choir leader. And I often walk out at night when it's dark because I sing in a church choir, I go to choir practice, I go to lectures, and I never ever worried about being mugged.
And now Gibson says she's still not really worried.
I know, I think a lot of my friends are probably thinking, oh, she's going to be afraid to go out. It won't stop me.
And she also has this message for the suspect.
He should get help. He should go to some groups that can give him advice. Maybe he needs a job.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Luckily, there was the camera. If there was no camera, I'm sure I would have been arrested and would have been convicted.
Why did a corrections officer grab and push a disabled man outside of a prison? We'll show you more of the security footage of the incident and how this isn't the first time this officer has been under investigation. That's coming up after the break. A new survey revealing tonight just how an important role newcomers to Canada play in the housing market. The Royal LePage survey says 1 in every 5 homes in Canada is bought by newcomers to the country. It also found they spend about 3 years in Canada before buying a home. And if current international migration levels are maintained, Royal LePage estimates that newcomers are expected to buy nearly 700,000 homes in Canada over the next 5 years. The study defined a newcomer as someone in the country for 10 years or less. Well, what began as a dispute over where to park has now escalated into a $500,000 lawsuit. A 69-year-old disabled man says a guard assaulted him while he was trying to visit a relative at an Ontario prison. As John Lancaster tells us, this isn't the first time the guard has denied any wrongdoing, despite there being photographic evidence.
Paul Saliba says a visit to the Bath Institution near Kingston almost landed him behind bars, falsely accused of assaulting a prison guard.
Luckily, there was the camera. If there was no camera, I'm sure I would have been arrested and would have been convicted.
The camera that cleared him was perched outside the prison in February 2017. It shows Saliba shuffling to the entrance as he arrived to visit an incarcerated relative. Corrections officials had given him permission to park close by in a staff parking lot due to his mobility issues. Something guard Darren Goff allegedly took exception to.
I tried to explain it to him. He said to me, "I don't take any attitude from them in there, and I sure as hell am not going to take any attitude from you."
Goff, without authorization from superiors, allegedly ordered Saliba off the property. The camera tracks the pair as Saliba returns to his vehicle. 1 minute later, it appears to show Goff pushing Saliba into a nearby vehicle. Goff reported the incident to police, accusing the disabled man of assault. Corrections officials determined Goff was the aggressor in the video. They won't say if he was disciplined. Saliba wants answers.
I want the system changed. I want it to be accountable. I don't believe that there should be two different systems, one for the average person and one for law officers.
In his statement of defense, Goff claims he thought Saliba was reaching for a weapon and the disabled man fell on his own, pulling the guard towards him. This isn't the first time Goff has been accused of wrongdoing by a member of the public. A year earlier, a security app snapped his photo after he allegedly tried repeatedly to enter passcodes into a female visitor's phone. Goff claimed the app was set off accidentally, something a judge determined was unlikely. John Lancaster, CBC News, Cobourg, Ontario.
Back the other way. McKay breaks through. He shoots. He scores.
Oh, back-to-back games for the Leafs tonight, or the second in 2 nights. Coming off a win at home last night, they're in D.C. taking on the Capitals. We'll have highlights after the break.
For the pass exactly where he wants to. McKay just gets on his horse, gets his legs moving.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Well, the Leafs looking for a third straight win tonight as they take on the Washington Capitals. It started out so well. Toronto up by 1 in the first. Kasper Kapanen gathers the puck, sends it to Ilya Mikheyev, who fires it in. That is 3 goals in 8 games for the Leafs rookie. Second period, game's already 2-1. Evgeny Tutsunov slides it in off the backhand. That ties the game. And then just 11 seconds later, TJ Oshie finds Nicholas Backstrom, who rips it to the back of the net. And they're not done. Shortly after Washington, with a 2-man advantage, Ovechkin takes a shot to John Carlson, who blasts it in. That is 3 goals in 78 seconds. Washington would go on to win 4-3. Colette is back with her extended forecast. It's just Wednesday, but never too soon to start talking about the weekend or looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we do that on Monday. We start looking forward. You're right, Mike. And it's nice to look ahead because in the short term, the next 24 hours, we're going to have kind of a blustery day on Thursday with those winds from the northwest and still a few residual showers around. So nice to look ahead and see that Friday and the weekend are looking pretty good. So I'll go into more detail on that. And record rain, not that significant, but still holding since 1942. And these are our averages, the high just under 14 and our average low around 4 degrees. So this is the system that's been pushing through. It's going to be changing our winds more towards the northwest by tomorrow morning, transferring some of that energy over towards the eastern seaboard, and that nor'easter starts winding up. As it does, not only do we have some of these scattered showers, but we get into pretty significant winds. These white bars are our isobars, so they're connecting areas of equal barometric pressure, and when they get closer and tighter together, we know we have stronger winds through the atmosphere, and that's what's happening. So Thursday, we'll see that through the day. It continues into the afternoon and evening, gusts 50, even 60 kilometers an hour, and then high pressure. Remember, our old friend high pressure will be moving in on Friday, so probably starting off with quite a bit of cloud cover and then getting into some clearer conditions as we go into the afternoon hours. Just another look at some of those winds. Southwestern Ontario, you'll be feeling these too. In fact, already some of those stronger winds there as your wind shifting a bit earlier with that front going through. Thursday morning, look at this Toronto, a gust of 60 kilometers an hour. St. Catharines at 52, over 40 still at Windsor. Then those start to ease later in the day on Thursday. Still Thursday evening, we're dealing with it in the GTA, and then overnight into Friday, things will definitely be getting a little bit better. These are your temperatures for southwestern Ontario to go along with those winds. 6 degrees, 10 to 11 for highs tomorrow. Still kind of isolated, but a few showers out there. Same thing for the GTA, still a few showers possible. In general, though, most of the area be a little bit drier, and then we keep that risk of needing the umbrella. Have it handy as we go into Thursday, but just be ready to really hold on to it because of the gusty winds that we'll be seeing. There you go into Friday. Now, in terms of how the temperatures respond to clearing conditions, it's not much warmer on Friday, no, but Saturday you'll be feeling it with highs going to the mid-teens and then upper teens. It's looking like Sunday, quite a nice day, depending on the timing of the next system moving in. And just your little reminder there, no matter what the weather on Monday, get out and vote.
Good reminder. Thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
Well, it's that time of year, the end of fall harvest and the start of Halloween season, that has people who devote their times to growing giant vegetables, showing off what they've accomplished, especially their giant pumpkins.
Finishing in first place with a giant pumpkin weighing 1,202 pounds.
Wow, that's incredible. A whopping 545 kilograms, enough to win the coveted title of biggest pumpkin on PEI this year. But if you think that one was big, last year's winner was way bigger, 136 kilos larger. And that PEI winner was only about half the size of this prize-winning behemoth this past weekend in California. Now, will any Ontario pumpkins follow suit? There are giant pumpkin competitions this weekend near Peterborough and in Prince Edward County. Well, tomorrow on Metro Morning, Matt Galloway is focusing on Halton and Peel regions. He'll be hosting Metro Morning as he rides the GO train along the Lakeshore line, using it to talk about election issues facing voters in suburban ridings. You can listen to that tomorrow morning on CBC Radio 1. I'll see you back here tomorrow evening. Good night.